Welcome back to the Real Estate Money School. And I am so excited to do this solo podcast episode for you because I know that you're going to love this content, because what we're going to talk about today is simple. We're going to talk about how I buy cars. But the way I buy cars and the way you buy cars are two totally different things. You see, the way you buy cars, you are either giving up money or paying money monthly to somebody else's bank. The way I buy cars is changing one thing from what you do, but I get all the money back for every single car that I ever buy, drive, and own. And I need you to understand this and know how this works, and so that you can then take the next steps to then apply that in your life. Because, hey, who doesn't want to buy nice cars and get all the money back for every single car they ever buy, drive, and own? I think you do. But before we get into that, let me go 2 layers deeper. I want to talk about all of you. I want to talk about your desire and your journey to becoming a rebel banker. You see, that journey starts with lots of things. It starts with podcasts. It starts with education. It starts with all sorts of stuff. But the most important thing is not the education. You think, and most people think, the education is the important part, but it's not. The important part is the application of the knowledge you learn, the application of what I'm going to teach you today about cars. That's the important part. So let me give you a lesson in taking action and applying knowledge. So what I just told you sounds pretty good. Great. But to get you to take action, sometimes you have to be motivated. You have to be given something for free. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you my brand new booklet. So if you guys are listening to this, I'm holding up my new booklet. It's called Drifting Away from Traditional Car Buying: How to Keep Both Your Car and Your Finances in the Fast Lane. So this booklet here is roughly, let's see, how many pages? 63 pages long. Big print, lots of graphics, lots of charts. And this booklet will teach you how to get all the money back for every car you ever buy, drive, and own. And then from there, you might want to take it to the next step. You might like, okay, if this works for cars, how else can I use this? Can I use this to pay down debt? Can I use this to buy airplanes? Whatever floats your boat. Then you can get this book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, which is a book I wrote with Brent Kessler. You can get that book. So why don't you just get both books for free? Wouldn't that be awesome? Well, here's the deal. In order to get both those books for free, you got to take action. Taking action looks like this. Go to right now, write this down or do this right now. Go to your computer and type in Chris Naugle, and just see if you need the spelling, it's NAUGLE.com. And it'll bring you to my website. And right there on the first page, maybe 2 index finger swipes down, is a link to get the free booklet. And then you just go over to the book section in the top, not hard, and find Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery and click that you want the free book. Now, for the Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, you do have to pay for the shipping and handling to get it to your house. I'm not going to actually pay for the shipping, but the book is free. So that is how you apply knowledge, folks. That is how you actually do it. So now let's dive in. So for a long time, from when I was 16 years old and I bought the first Buick Skyhawk for cash, it was a 1986 Buick Skyhawk, blue two-tone. It was my very first car when I was 16. I paid cash for that car. And I went on a journey in those early years, probably up to 18 or 19, where all I did is buy cars and paid cash. And every one of those cars I would buy for a certain dollar amount. And then I would drive the car, beat the car up, because that's just what young teenagers do. We beat the cars to hell, go through the fields, all that good stuff. But what I ended up doing is I ended up evolving. I ended up upgrading. So I paid cash for those cars. And then when I would sell the cars, I'd usually lose money because I beat them up and they weren't worth as much. So, I'd drive the car and the money I lost was sort of just like throwaway money. That was fun money for driving a car and beating on it. Then I wanted to upgrade. And I remember the very first vehicle I ever leased. I don't remember what year, but it was a ZR2 S10 navy blue. It was like the prized possession at that time. It was when I was running my snowboard shops, but I leased that. So at that time, I had learned what leases were. And back then they had leases where you could actually buy it out, right? It was a little different. I think they have them today, but back then it was different. So I leased this ZR2 S10, and I think my monthly payment back then was $199 a month. Now that doesn't seem like a lot now in 2021, but this is way back. This is in the 90s. That was a lot of money for me. That was a big step from the Buick Skyhawk or the 1985 Audi 4000 CS Quattro that I bought. Like, this was a big step for me. I now had a brand new S10 truck. And all I knew is I had to make a $199 payment every month to GM Finance, or in my eyes, to somebody else's bank. And I gladly did this. So I made the payments and I got to drive this brand new truck. And then after the time frame of when that lease ended, I then just handed the keys back. I said, hey, here's the keys. Here's the truck. My lease is over. But then I didn't have a vehicle. I had to figure out how to do it. So, I started to learn the different ways we can buy cars. And I've arrived at 4 different ways you can buy a car. Number 1, you can do what I did with that Buick Skyhawk, that Audi 4000 CS Quattro. You can pay cash. Okay. And in paying cash, I want you to understand the magnitude of what you're doing. You're exchanging dollars. Okay. You're giving dollars that you've saved. So you've saved up enough to buy the car and you give them over to whoever's selling the car. Those dollars are gone forever. They left your family. You will never, ever, ever get that money back. But in return, you get this vehicle that you wanted that you get to drive. Now, that vehicle certainly will depreciate. I mean, this might be one of the only times in my history where I've seen used cars selling for more than what people are paying, but this is a weird time and this will not last. So back then, that wasn't the case. You exchanged that big lump chunk of money that you saved for that car over to whoever the seller was, and the money's gone, and you get in return a vehicle that is certain to depreciate. Fair enough? So that's the first way you can buy a car. Second way you can buy a car, number 2, would be you can finance the car. You can go to your bank. Okay. And I've done this many times. I bought a lot of cars. I used to be an Audi enthusiast. And what I'd do is I would go to my credit union and I would basically apply for a car loan. And that car loan would then basically be approved and they would give me a monthly payment. So I want to buy this $20,000 Audi A4. And I'm just kind of going through some of the cars in my history. And they would say, all right, your car payment's going to be $210 a month. Great. $210 a month in exchange for this used car that I just got. But I didn't have to come up with the money. I didn't have to save that money. All I had to do is exchange $210 a month to the credit union. And they got to keep that money the whole time, which was interest plus principal. And in return, I got this car that I drove. And then at the end of that term, the car would get paid off because I'd make my last payment to the credit union. And then I'd have this car, which was worth significantly, in most cases, significantly less money than what I paid for. So what do? Well, you normally sell the car, you take the car to the dealership and you trade it in, and you guys know the routine, but that's the second way to buy cars. You finance it. There's a third way to buy cars. And that third way to buy cars is you can lease it, just like that ZR2 S10. Okay, so I've leased ZR2 S10. I've leased Chevy Silverados. I've leased a couple different vehicles in my time. And leasing is convenient. And that's the way that the finance companies love to get you. Because most people don't even understand what leasing is. They just understand, okay, it's a lower monthly payment than if I bought it. So instead of that car costing me $199, leasing it might only cost me $160 a month. And I just make this monthly payment every single month. In return, I get to kind of borrow and drive this vehicle. And then at the end of the term, 3 years, 36 months, however long your lease is, I just turn the car back in. Like, remember, I just gave the keys back for the ZR2 S10, all done. But then you're without a car, you're no further along, and you got to lease the next car. So they gotcha. But the thing about leasing that people don't understand is the built-in fees. They don't understand that most leases carry an 8% interest rate embedded. They won't tell you that. Most people don't understand that you're paying the highest price for the car because the valuation they put on the car is the highest value. And then they give you the amount that the car will be worth. Okay, which is what they base all the payments on. You know, the car is worth this when you buy it. The car will be this worth this in 3 years when they do it. And that's what you're paying the lease payments on. That's why they're lower, but you're still getting screwed. You're absolutely getting screwed. Number one, the interest rate, maybe it's 8%. Like, think about paying 8% on a car today. Any one of you leasing a car, I bet you if you really looked at that lease agreement, you are paying an 8% interest rate. You just didn't care because it was the monthly payment that you got trapped on and you got to borrow the car. So leasing, I think, is one of the worst ways to buy cars. It's the worst ways to get equipment, but everybody is bought into this because they get so caught up in the glamour and the glitz of the new car that the lower monthly payment is attractive. And I get it. So that's the third way, leasing. The fourth way to buy a car. The fourth way, what is it? Well, the fourth way to buy a car is steal it. It's not really buying it, but you're stealing the car. But I'm just going to discount this one because all of you, I know you're all good people and you're not stealing cars. But I just needed to point out that there are 4 ways to acquire a car. So you've heard some ways in which I have bought cars in the past. I have paid cash for cars, just like all of you. You probably have paid cash for cars. I've also financed cars. I've gone to the credit union. I've used GM finance. I've used Mercedes finance, BMW finance to finance cars. And every single time it's that negotiation and you get down to the monthly payment over X amount of time and boom, you drive away the car. But at the end of the time when you pay the car off, how many of you can sincerely tell me that the car was worth enough money to make it worth it? Literally, like, and what do I mean by that? I mean, by the time you pay off the car, did you get all the money back for that car when you sold it? The answer is always no. Did you get 90 cents back on the dollar? Nope. Did you get 70 cents, 50 cents back on the car? Maybe. But you didn't get all the money back for the car. So you essentially lost all that value on the car. And most of you, when you buy a car and you finance it, what do? When we're done with the car, the tires are old, the car loses its new car smell. So we just trade the car in. And the dealership gives us another hit because they don't even give us what it's worth. And they say, oh, we'll save you on the taxes. Woo! That's my favorite one in the book. We'll save you the taxes so that, you don't have to pay tax when you sell the car. But we're just going to screw you and only give you literally 30 cents on the dollar for your car that actually probably could get a lot more selling it on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. Like, this is what we do, and we think this is okay. And I did the same thing. I leased cars, I financed cars, I paid cash for cars. And I always thought, well, this is just what I've been taught. This is how mom did it. This is how dad did it. This is how grandma did it. This is how grandpa did it. This is all I know. All I know about buying cars are the traditional ways of buying cars. And then one day I was with a wealthy individual, Salt Lake City, at a cheesecake factory talking about money. And he had lent me a bunch of money on my real estate deals. And, he got talking about this place where he keeps money. He called it his private bank. And I'm like, well, that's pretty freaking cool. Private bank. I was an advisor of, I think at that time, 14 or 15 years. So I figured I knew all this stuff. All right, well, great. What this private bank? I have to know what it is. I'm a financial advisor. And starts telling me about this thing. And I'm just like, dude, I never heard of this before. Tell me more, Mike. And he keeps going on and on. And then finally he gets down to it and he tells me what this thing is. What this machine was, this magic bank that he was talking about that gave him uninterrupted compound interest, that gave him tax-deferred growth and tax-free use of his money. He could take his money out anytime he wanted, tax-free, even if it was all gains. And then it always had a legacy play so that if he ever graduated a little too early, in other words, died too early, his family got some money, tax-free. This is just like the greatest thing ever. And like, it never went on his credit report. He never had to ask questions or fill out forms or fill out applications or get his credit pulled when he wanted his money. It was just boom, the money was in his account. It was truly the ultimate bank. And when he told me what this machine was, I looked at him and I said, nope, Mike, I'm an advisor and I know how this stuff works. And that machine doesn't work that way. And he looked back at me and he said, if it doesn't work that way, then how am I doing this? And I said, well, Mike, you got me, bud. I don't know. And I said, well, then teach me more. Like if I think I know something, but what I know isn't so, then Mike, teach me the real truth. Teach me what I don't know. And Mike looked at me and he said, I can't. He said, I didn't create this. I didn't teach myself this. I learned this from somebody else. And it was this guy, Brent, give this guy a call. I said, oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. So I probably even at the second I left that cheesecake factory on the way back to my best friend Jack's house, I'm probably calling Brent, I'm a financial advisor. This guy, Mike, just told me all about this private bank. And I want to learn more. I know all about these, but I never knew they could work that way. Tell me about this private bank. And he says, I'd love to have a conversation with you, but I've got, calls scheduled. Can you watch a 90-minute video and then set up a call? And I said, no, Brent, I don't have time to watch a 90-minute video. I understand this. Like, let's get going. He said, no, I need you to watch the video before we can do the call. So reluctantly, I remember it took a few days. That was a Sunday. I walk in my basement with a big old cup of coffee and I turn the computer on. I play this 90-minute video and I thought it was going to suck. And literally 90 minutes went by like 15 minutes. And I remember getting done with that video. And I remember looking at my notepad, which was now filled with 4 pages of notes. And at that very moment, I sincerely felt like I literally just cracked the freaking code. I just cracked the fucking code that the wealthy have been using for years that I never knew about. And I'm an advisor. How is it that a big advisor doesn't understand this when all those years I was taught by some of the best in the business? I went through all the licensings. I had the Series 7, 66, 6, 63, on and on and on. And I never knew about this. Well, shame on me, or shame on the industry, or shame on somebody, because I should have known this at the beginning. This would have changed everything if I just knew. But I didn't know. Just like you don't know. Just like when I get into how I buy cars using this system and this machine that the wealthy have been using forever. Who's been using this? Well, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the JPs, the Morgans, the Walt Disneys, the Ray Krocs, the Doris Christophers from Pampered Chefs. Warren Buffett uses it in a different way, but he uses it right up to our current sitting president. Whether you love or hate him, he uses this publicly. He's gone out. And McCain used it before he died. And I guarantee you, if you're a Trump fan, I guarantee you he used it. He just hasn't publicly said it. They all use this, folks. And they've been using this forever. If they're not using it, their family office is. This system that I learned at that Cheesecake Factory, this private banking system, this infinite banking concept, which was the process and how they moved their money, was so fresh, so new, so revolutionary to me that I literally felt like I just cracked the code and everything was going to change. And folks, here's the beauty. Once I dove in, once I changed one thing in what I was doing, one thing, that's all I had to change. It's just one thing. I added one step to what I was doing the whole time. And that one change was where my money went first, where the money that I used to save, which used to go directly into mutual funds, directly into 401ks, directly into savings accounts, or directly into a checking account, all that money that I used to save, all I did is changed where that money went first, which we're going to cover in just a few moments. When I changed that, I started learning why the wealthy do this. And it comes down to really one single solitary reason why the wealthy use this and they don't use other things as a source for where their money starts. Now, I'm not saying this is where their money finishes. This is just where their money starts. This is where their capital begins its life. They work for money, or money that they make on different things, or money that's earned money has to go somewhere. So it's not, the wealthy aren't taking the money they're earning and the money that their money is earning and putting it into somebody else's bank. They're putting it into their own bank, this private banking system. And the second the money goes into this machine that again, I know you're like, come on, Chris, just tell me what it is, but I can't, because this is about how you're going to buy cars the way I buy cars and get all the money back for every single car you ever buy, drive, and own, because you probably just admitted with me that you don't know a way to buy cars and get all the money back for every one of the cars you buy, drive, and own without ever having to work any harder, work any longer, or without having to take on any risk or give up control of your money. You just don't know how to do that, just like I didn't. The machine in which, the wealthy use, this machine that I'm going to tell you, this private bank and what it is and where my money, with that one change, where my money went first, that's the ticket, because that ticket unlocks something that you all need to understand, but you think you know what you don't know. Will Rogers made this quote, and I want you to remember this, and I want you to write this down. So grab a pen, I'll wait. And I want you to write down this quote. This is single-handedly the most true statement that I have ever heard. And I prove this day in and day out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, because here's what it is. Will Rogers said the biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. Let that sink in. The biggest problem for you is not what you don't know. A lot of people think, oh, that's the problem. It's what I don't know is the problem. No, it's not. That's not the problem at all. The problem that stops you from learning things is the fact that you think you know what just ain't so. I was an advisor. I thought I knew what just wasn't so. Most people that see this or hear about this system, this concept, think they know what just ain't so because of false beliefs, because of false information, because quite frankly, they've never learned this. It's the knowledge that they don't have that they just, for some reason, don't want because they think they already know how this works and they have no freaking clue. I had a guy on Facebook today, just send me a message. And I sent back a nice message. I said, you think you know what you don't know? I said, you think that this is how it works and that's not how it works, but yet you're too smart to even understand that all you need to do is peel the onion one more time and you'll understand it all. But you're so smart, you know it all already. You've arrived, dude. Good. Can pat yourself on the ass and on the back. Like you're there. You know everything. And when people arrive at some conclusion or some point in their life where they think they know everything, they don't know shit, because the only thing they have is a false sense of reality, a lack of willingness to learn something new that could change their life, and a negative mindset, which is dangerous. I can't change a negative mindset, nor can you, but you can change your mindset. And your mindset needs to be changed because you need to understand how money really works. That's the mindset you need to change, is your way you think about money because of what you've been taught your whole life. And this is very hard to change. Think of it, however old you are, that's how many years you've been lied to about money. That's right. So I'm 44 years I've been lied to about money by following the traditional teachings about money. Unless you've literally gone off the deep end and actually kind of got into different books from Robert Kiyosaki, from Tony Robbins, Ted Brenna, the founder of the 401k. If you've really started diving in, you will find patterns that all these guys, from Tony Robbins to Kiyosaki to Ted to, I could just keep going on, Ray Dalio, and on and on and on. All these people know what I'm talking about, use what I'm talking about, and have been using it. They're at a higher level because they've taken the time to learn it. They didn't all of a sudden, Kiyosaki didn't just say, oh, I know everything. No, Kiyosaki said, tell me about this. Like, how does this work? I've never heard about this. And he learned, and he's like, oh, wow, that's another tool in the tool chest. So let's get back to cars. So we know all the ways we used to buy cars. So how do I buy cars now? I changed one thing. So the problem with the way I buy cars and the way you buy cars is my way of buying cars takes some time. You see, I use the way that you would use to buy a car called paying cash. So I save up the money. So what I do is every month, if I have something I want to buy, a car, maybe I want to buy a duplex or a triplex or a multiplex, whatever it is I want to buy, what I do is I save up enough money. So I put money away monthly, sometimes annually, but I don't put it where you do. I don't put it, in the traditional brokerage accounts. I certainly don't leave anything more than 10 grand in a bank account, checking or savings. God forbid I have more than 10 grand. I start, hair on my arm stands up. I get so mad because I don't want them to have my money, because I know if the traditional bank, somebody else's bank, is holding my money, they're making money on my money. How much are they making? Well, if you go to bauerfinancial.com and you look up any traditional bank that there is, they make 400 to 1,300% more than you do by moving your money, when you could move your money yourself. Just trying to get you to start thinking about what's really going on there. So I don't keep much money in a traditional bank. The money I keep, my capital, my wealth, is in my bank. The same thing that Mike guy at Cheesecake Factory was telling me about. And I can't give you his last name, but he kept his wealth, his capital, in his own bank. So all I do is I change, number one, where my money goes first. And my money isn't at a bank. My money is at giant mutually owned insurance companies. Now, try this. Try walking into a giant mutually owned insurance company, maybe a Mass Mutual or a Penn Mutual, or, walk into One America or Lafayette Life, and just go in there with a suitcase full of money and just say, hey, I'm here. I'd like to deposit my money. They will say, yes, we're here. There's the door. You can leave now. We're not a depository. We're not a bank. That's what they would tell you. But wait, this guy, Chris, on his podcast said that I can deposit my money in a giant mutually owned insurance company. And that's exactly what you are. And they would say, well, maybe this guy, Chris, didn't understand that we're not a bank. But you know what? This guy, Chris, understands exactly what an insurance company is and exactly what a bank is. But you can't deposit money directly into the insurance company. There has to be a way to get the money into the insurance company's general account. And you know who figured this out? And it's hard to get to the truth of who actually figured this out. It was either the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, or the JPs. So one of them figured this out. Some people would say the JPs did it first and the Rockefellers were next. And they said, we don't trust traditional banks. Back in their day, banks weren't solid. They weren't strong, nor are they today. But you've just got a false reality of what a bank's strength is. Take a look under the hood and you'll see banks aren't really that strong at all. But anyway, back then they didn't want their money at banks, so they changed where their money was held. And they put their money in the most sound, oldest, and most secure financial institution there is, and that is a giant mutually owned insurance company. But they realized that we can't just deposit our money. The insurance companies don't actually need our money. Matter of fact, insurance companies have all the money. They have always had all the money. They give money to the banks to buy those big high rises. So how do we get our money there? Well, back then they said, well, the best way for us to get our money into these insurance companies is not through deposits, but it is through an old vehicle that insurance companies have had for a very long period of time called a whole life insurance policy. Now, before you get all up in arms, oh, Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman said those suck. Let me finish, please, because now all of a sudden your mind goes to that area that I said, Will Rogers said, the biggest problem is not what you don't know. It's what you think you know that just ain't so. So just hold yourself. And I'll clarify that this whole life that the Rockefellers, the JPs, the Morgans, the Walt Disneys, the Ray Krocs, right up to the sitting president, I want you to understand that this is not a regular whole life insurance policy. Because if I was talking to you about a regular whole life to do what I'm explaining to you next, you would say that I'm absolutely crazy. And you would definitely say, all right, I'm going to my insurance guy, my broke ass brother-in-law, I'm going to buy a whole life and it better work the way you explain it. And I'll tell you, it will not. A regular whole life policy is a great life insurance policy, but terrible for what I'm about to tell you. It's a terrible machine to move your money through. You would hate me if that's the way you do this. I am talking about a very specially designed and engineered whole life that is not built for life insurance. It is built on a life insurance chassis or contract, if you will, but it is literally built for banking. It is built to give you immediate access to your cash value, not in a year, not in 3 years, not in 5 years, immediately in the first 30 days. So I deposit money into this specially designed and engineered whole life, the private bank, and then I want to take some of that money out. I can do it immediately when my check clears. We always say immediately in the first 30 days. So just trying to get you to understand that this is not a regular whole life. Banks are the number one purchasers of whole life in the world. Okay. Look up Bank of America, look up Wells Fargo, look on their balance sheet. You'll see it. They own more whole life insurance than they do all the land and buildings combined. That's why they have so many vice presidents, because a bank is an entity. They can't buy life insurance on themselves. They're an entity. They don't have a life to insure, but they promote employees to vice presidents, which gives them an executive, and an executive is an insurable interest for a business. So they buy policies on their executives. But these policies are called BOLI, bank-owned life insurance, BOLI. And they have more of this than they do all the land and buildings. So you can either come to the conclusion that either banks are stupid for doing this because Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman said that this is a terrible place for them to put their money, or you could literally say, well, banks are probably a lot smarter than Dave Ramsey, and their teams are probably figured this out a lot more than Dave Ramsey. So what do they know that we don't know? That should be the question you're asking. Well, that's interesting because they know what I'm teaching you here. They know how to design and engineer these contracts so that they work for banking. And why would they do this? And why would the wealthy do this? And all those names I keep mentioning, why would they all put their money there? One word: compound interest. But not just compound interest, because you think of compound interest as I take money and I put it somewhere and that money just grows and I can't touch it. Boring. How many of you don't want access to your money? Well, a lot of you don't, because you're putting money in a 401k where you're giving up control of your money and access to that money. And you're just waiting to some future day to take back weaker dollars that are taxed at a higher rate. But we won't go there. But I'm just pointing out the obvious. So there are some of you that actually like giving your money away and not having access. But me and most of the people I talk to, we hate not having access to our money. So what we got to do is we got to understand not just compound interest, what Albert Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world, the most powerful thing in the universe. And he said, those that understand it, earn it. Those that don't, pay it. So now let's talk about uninterrupted, keyword, uninterrupted compound interest. What if there was a place where you could put money, okay, where you could earn compound interest, but then you could take that money out and never interrupt the interest and dividends that you're earning on that money? Wouldn't that be a novel idea? Well, see, this is exactly what we're talking about. We are talking about one of the only places on earth where you can park your money, put your capital, like I was for saving for cars, put that money where I'm going to earn compound interest at a guaranteed interest rate. And then every year, the insurance company, because they are mutually owned insurance companies, not publicly traded, they share in their profits and they return the excess premiums not paid or not used for death benefits. They return that to who? That's right. They're policyholders. Their policyholders are no different than stockholders. So in a stock company, publicly traded, the stock company pays dividends to their, not all, but most will pay dividends out to their stockholders. A mutually owned company, they take the unused profits and the unused surplus, i.e. the premiums that, were paid in for life insurance that weren't used, they pay that back to the policyholders in the form of a dividend. And the insurance companies we use, every one of them have paid consecutive dividends without ever missing one for hundreds of years. 163 for one, 140, 120, whatever it is for the company. They've paid those dividends consecutively. So that's stability. So now I got a way where I can earn a guaranteed interest rate plus a dividend, but yet now you're saying I can take this money, right? So let's go back to the car. I'm saving money by changing one thing in this specially designed and engineered whole life. Every month I'm putting money in. Every year in some of the policies I'm putting money in, whatever. You're just saving whatever you were saving in the other sources. You didn't change the dollar amount you're saving. You just changed where that savings went first. So now I'm saving it up in there. And eventually my cash value builds to be enough where I can actually take that money out and use it to buy a car. Okay. So now we're back to paying cash for a car. I've had to save the money first. Now I've got enough money to buy the car. So now what am I going to do? Follow along very closely because this is so simple and so logical that when I'm done, you're going to ask yourself, why in the hell haven't I been doing this the whole time? Why didn't somebody show me this? Because this is so easy. It's just such a brilliant idea. Well, when I saw this the first time in that 90-minute video, which you all can watch on my website, remember I sent you to the website to get the books, but why not watch the 90-minute video that I watched on my website to learn exactly how this works and see the numbers? You can check it out. Go to chrisnaugle.com and watch the 90-minute video that pops up and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So now I'm ready to buy a car and I go out and I find the car I want. So let's talk about the most recent vehicle that I just bought. Okay. It's a used, and I only buy used vehicles because I want that depreciation already out. It's a couple of year old Mercedes G-Wagon. You guys have seen those big, ugly, boxy, loud SUVs. I've always wanted one because they don't depreciate as much, but they still depreciate. So what I did is I saved up the equivalent of about $68,000. Okay. Over time, it took me a couple of years to save that money up. And that's the problem. A lot of people are in such a hurry to buy a car. This might not work for your first car, but maybe you can start saving for the next one. So I saved up. Now, what I did is instead of taking a withdrawal from my private bank, which is that specially designed whole life, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a loan. And now you're all thinking, oh, there it is. I knew there was a catch. Loan bad. No. What if the loan that I take never needs to be paid back? Because I'm taking a loan from the insurance company. So here, follow along with me. I got 68 grand in the account. I'm buying a $68,000 G-Wagon. So I take a loan from my bank, okay, for $68,000. I'm holding 68,000 and I had 68,000. So most of you, if I had 68,000 and I took 68, how much is left in my account? Most of you are thinking, duh, zero. You had 68 and you took 68. There's nothing left. Wrong. My account still has $68,000 in cash value in it. Well, how can that be? Who's 68,000 am I holding? Well, remember I said I took a loan. Well, who did I take a loan from? I took a loan from the insurance company and they didn't ask any questions. I clicked the button. 36 hours later, I have $68,000 in my hand. But you're like, what's the catch? Well, there's two catches. Number one, where did that loan that they just gave me, does that have to be paid back? The answer is no. Well, who gives loans out and doesn't ask for them back? Insurance companies do, because the insurance company not only guaranteed that they were going to pay me an interest rate, a guaranteed interest rate. Okay. They didn't guarantee they were going to pay me dividends, but they have for hundreds of years. So now I've got those two things, but they also guaranteed that someday when I graduate, in other words, when I die, they're going to pay a death benefit out to my beneficiaries. And that's a promise and a guarantee inside the contract, just like the guaranteed interest rate. So all the insurance company does is they say, okay, you need 68 grand. We will gladly give you $68,000 of the death benefit that we're going to pay out someday, because this is a whole life. So it's for your whole life. So we know we got to pay it someday. We'll just give you 68 grand of that death benefit that you've got over here. And your money, the 68,000 that you've saved up, that's earning uninterrupted compound interest plus dividends, we'll just leave that money in your account as collateral. So your money just acts as collateral for the $68,000 that the life insurance company just gave you, which was an advance of your death benefit. And the insurance company charges you an interest rate on the amount that you have. But the interest rate they charge you is less than the interest rate that they're paying you. You follow? So I'm making a spread on that. So literally, I have money in my account. I took the money out. They charge me an interest rate, but the interest rate's lower than what they're paying me. So I'm making an immediate arbitrage. And the best part about that arbitrage is every single year, due to compounding, the one thing you think you know that you don't know or don't understand, due to compounding, every single year, I'm compounding on a higher amount. I might have had 68 grand that year, but it was 8 grand plus the guaranteed interest rate plus the dividend. So the next year it's compounding on a higher amount, and the next year a higher amount, next year a higher amount, next year a higher amount. So that spread, that arbitrage between what the insurance company charges me for the death benefit they advanced me and what I'm earning keeps working in my favor because of nothing other than how money works. Compound interest. I'm earning the compounding, but I didn't have to interrupt the compounding by taking my money to use it because the insurance company advanced me my death benefit. Did a light bulb just go off? Because if that arbitrage starts in the first year at 1%, I'm making 1% for using my money. In the second year, let's say it's 1.2%. In the fifth year, let's say it's 5% that I'm making. My spread is 5. In the 10th year, maybe it's 15 or 20%. You see, all that difference in that arbitrage is you not working harder. It's not you saving more. It's not you taking more risk like you think you have to. It's just your money never, ever stopped working. It never stopped compounding. So now I've got a mechanism to now buy the car. I have 68 grand, okay, which is the loan against my death benefit. A loan that never needs to be paid back because someday later the insurance company is going to subtract it from the death benefit paid out, and they're paying me an interest or charging me an interest rate, but I'm making more, and every year I'm making even more. So that arbitrage, that spread between what I pay and what I earn, keeps going up in my favor, not the bank's favor, not the insurance company's favor, my favor, automatically. So I buy the vehicle. You might think this equation is over. You're like, well, that's pretty cool. You're constantly making more and more money. Great. You've got the vehicle, and now you've got the 68 grand compounding every year. Awesome. And you make the spread between. So what more could there be? It already sounds perfect, but it's not. You see, I have been saying this since the beginning. This machine, okay, my private bank that's specially designed and engineered whole life, it's my bank. Now, if all of you owned a bank, literally like owned a true bank, and you took a loan from your bank, would you just steal from your bank and not pay your bank back? No, you'd pay your bank back. You treat your bank's money the same as you would treat anyone else's bank's money. So now that we're trying to think like a bank, and we are a bank because we're creating a banking system to buy cars, that 68 grand that was in my account, I now took a loan against that, used it as collateral to buy this vehicle. And if I figured this out properly, if I had financed a $68,000 vehicle, and I can't remember if I did this over 5 or 6 years, but let's just say 6, it would have been $1,108. That's what my monthly payment is. If I did that through the credit union, or I did that through Bank of America or Wells Fargo, they would charge me an interest rate. And I figured out what that was. It was like 4.5% on a used vehicle. And they would charge me an interest rate. And over 6 years, that payment would have been somewhere around $1,108, give or take. And you guys can fact check this and go to bankrate.com and figure out the calculator, but I just don't remember what it was, but I know it's $1,108. So all I did is I said, you know what? If I'm going to be the bank, and I'm going to treat my money the same as I would have treated the credit union's money or the Bank of America's money, well, then I should then pay my bank back the same amount I would pay their bank back. So now I've got this vehicle. It's in the driveway. It's bought and paid for in cash. So what I then do is I set up a bill pay, okay, for $1,108, the same amount I would have given the credit union every single month, no different. And then I have that bill pay every single month, starting the next month. But the name on the check, does anyone know what the name on the check is? It's not Bank of America. It's not Cornerstone Credit Union. It's not Wells Fargo. It's Chris Naugle. I could even say Chris Naugle's bank, but it's just Chris Naugle. That $1,108 check automatically from my main bank account, where I pay all my bills, gets paid back to me. And then what I do is I take that money and I put it right back in my banking system, my private bank. And I do it as a loan repayment. So, the cool part is I'm paying my bank back just the same way I'd pay somebody else's bank. Some of you are thinking, yeah, but you paid cash for the car. Why would you have a monthly payment? Because you're still not getting it. You should treat your money the same as you treat the bank's money. I just changed where my money went first, and I did this. And here's the reason why. The $1,108, the way you're thinking, if you're thinking about why would I pay myself back? You're thinking about it like it's a payment. You're making $1,008 payment to somebody else's bank. That money's gone forever. Why would you do that? You wouldn't. You don't want to. Like, if you pay cash for a car, don't make a monthly payment too. But you see here, this is your bank. So if you make that $1,108 payment every month through a bill pay back to your bank and you repay your loan, Do you realize how much money you have every single month? You're right. $1,108 plus interest and dividends compounding. And every month that $1,108 payment goes back into my account, I have that money to use tomorrow. And every month I have more money. And every month that money is compounding. And every month I'm paying less money in interest, i.e. the insurance company's interest rate they charge. I'm paying less in interest than I was the month before because I'm paying the balance down to the insurance company. All along, my money never stopped earning interest. So if I were to show this, and you can watch the 90-minute video or you can get the free booklet that I offered earlier on, all along, my money never stopped earning uninterrupted compound interest. I have my dream truck in the driveway. I make monthly payments for that dream truck, but I get all the money back because it all goes back into my bank. Think of a circle. The money starts on the left side of the circle. It moves over to the right side where you buy the vehicle. Then the money on a monthly basis goes from the right side of the circle where you would have normally financed the vehicle, leased the vehicle, or paid cash for it. But now the bottom part of the circle is that monthly payment going back into my bank. So of course, after the 5 years or 6 years that you financed the car to your bank, you get all the money back and then some for the car without ever having to sell the vehicle. So before the game's even done, by the time I've paid off this vehicle, by the time I've paid off the loan back to my bank, I already have all the money back for the vehicle. Every penny of that money is back in my account, okay? Because I'm the bank. But then I still have the vehicle in the driveway. So if I paid 68 grand for the vehicle, is it safe to say maybe in 5 or 6 years, it'll be worth 30 or 40? So I sell the vehicle. That's $30,000 or $40,000 in pure profit on that truck because I've already got all the money back. This is how I buy cars, folks. It's different than the way you buy cars. It's not hard. There's nothing complex about what I did. It involved changing where the money went first. And then it involved me treating my money the same way as I would treat the bank's money and just following the process. I automated it all. Folks, if this works for cars, what else does it work for? Everything. I just bought a copier for our office. Okay, we leased the copier. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I said, why would I lease from their bank? Why wouldn't I just finance the purchase of the copier from my bank and then make $160 a month payment back to my bank? I get all the money back for the copier, and then we own the copier after 5 years. Novel idea. It works for everything. Planes, trains, automobiles, vacations, taxes, you name it, it works. This is how I buy cars. Look it up, folks. It's called privatized banking. Or you can look up the process of how I did it. That is called the infinite banking concept. You can read the book by the founder of the infinite banking concept. It's called Becoming Your Own Bank. R. Nelson Nash wrote it. Read that book. Read my book, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. Read the booklet, Drifting Away from the Traditional Car Buying. That's all how this works. Folks, I hope you learned something today. And I hope you take that next step and actually take action on this knowledge by watching the 90-minute video on my website. Okay. Or just read the books. It's all free to you. I'm not asking you for any money at all. Matter of fact, I'm trying to put money back in your bank, trying to get you to understand what the wealthy do with money that you don't know because nobody will teach you this. Why don't you know this? Like, if this is such a great idea, Chris, how come I don't know about it? Well, because in order for you to know about this, your advisor or your broke ass brother-in-law who sells you your life insurance would have to take a cut of 60 to 90% in his commission. Do you think he's willing to do that, or her? Do you think he or she is willing to take a 60 or 90% cut in their commission so that you have access to 60 to 90% more cash immediately? So you have access to that money immediately to take out and buy things. Well, I doubt it. I doubt they would. They'll say, oh, yeah, I'll do that for you, but they won't want to, because who works for 90% less than what they make today? Not many people. So why do I teach this? Because I went the next layer deeper. I said, well, if it pays so crappy, how will I ever make a living teaching people how to do this? And I figured it out. It's not about helping 1 or 2 or 3 people get all the money back for cars and helping set up their banking systems. It's about helping thousands of people. The more people I help, the more people I set up their banking systems for. I make a tiny little bit on a lot of people. How many? Thousands and thousands of people. I just figured it out through this system that I just have to help a lot of people solve their money problems. And if I can do that, I can make a lot of money. But it doesn't mean I make a lot of money in a short period of time. Building wealth is a marathon, folks. It's not a sprint, never has been. Your life is not a sprint either. It's a marathon. So the second you stop being in a hurry to build wealth, the second you stop being in a hurry for that next big thing that you're going to make $1 million on, in your fear of missing out on that next big opportunity, start thinking that Warren Buffett is one of the wealthiest men in the world, not because he's a good stock picker, not because of Berkshire Hathaway, not because he's got the best stocks that you can buy because of fundamental analysis and his systems. No, no, no. One reason, ask him. Time. He's been investing for a very long period of time, and the man is a perpetual student. He never thinks he knows everything. He's constantly learning. You need to be the same student. You need to understand what Will Rogers said. The problem is not what you don't know. The problem is what you think you know that just ain't so. I hope you guys enjoyed this solo episode, and there will be plenty more. Go out there, take action. Begin your journey to becoming a rebel banker where you don't need somebody else's bank. You are the banker, BYOB, like my hat says. Become your own banker. And become your own banker by changing the way you think, the way you learn, the way you use, and everything that goes around money. And if you do that and you apply this, you will start improving your financial literacy, which will improve your financial habits, which will improve your financial future. It's that simple. Take action and do it today. Grab my books, watch the 90-minute video, and we'll see you on the other side when you've got that dream car parked in the driveway and you say to me, Chris, I got all the money back for that car and every other car. Thank you. We'll see you next time.